Greetings, welcome to an Equity.Guru Investor Roundtable. Very stoked for this one because it's so gosh darn fascinating. I'm Rob. Down here in the basement with me is Galen, who's eating what he's making already, which is
peanut butter and chocolate donuts.
Wow. That's
I'll buy some.
Good.
So healthy.
Chris Berry's in the far corner, not eating that, as is Vishal upstairs in the penthouse. We're talking about lithium. Lithium's very important stuff. It's really good at a party, dude. But it's actually good for batteries and phones and things. We're going to talk about Alpha Lithium out of Vancouver under Brad Nickel. It's ALLI on the Venture Exchange. We are also going to talk Critical Elements Lithium. That is CRE on the Venture Exchange out of Montreal. It's Jean-Sébastien Lavallee, if I'm saying that correctly. And then also out of Vancouver under Nick Kakos is Argentina Lithium and Energy. That's LIT on the Venture Exchange. That one's intriguing. It's a $32 million market cap. The others are larger. Vishal will tee it up, and then we're going to go around the horn a couple times here today.
Yep, for sure, Rob. So I think, the viewers know we're quite bullish on commodities. I sort of prefer my commodities, the shiny type, mostly gold and silver. But hey, we've been bullish on oil and gas. We've been mentioning oil and gas in the past, and I think we have a oil and gas show coming up. We've been bullish on uranium. And, we've sort of said that this is technically the inflation trade, right? The agricultural commodities as well. And I guess now you can also supply or talk about supply chains. Lithium is a market, I guess, that I know I haven't really spoken too much about. I know Galen is a big lithium guy just because he does our EV roundups, so he knows the ins and outs of lithium. But I find it quite fascinating given what we're seeing in the lithium markets. Just a quick look here at lithium carbonate, which is traded in China, had a very, very good 2021. Actually, a very good end of 2021, a very good beginning of January 2022. And you can see here in March, we sort of stalled, but this is more due to the lockdowns in China. So this is the lithium carbonate, which is actually mostly traded in China because you can see it's priced in the Chinese yuan. Meanwhile, lithium, I can't remember the word. It's not carbonate, it's the other one, which I'll get back to. But it's another market that's traded in the US here. And we hit highs of 81.50 recently. So, all commodities are getting a nice little bump up, primarily due to the whole supply chain issues. And we just had this warning from Rivian CEO about an EV battery supply shortage, saying that EV companies are actually now in the midst of scrambling raw materials like cobalt, lithium, and nickel. And he does refer to Tesla making that secret agreement with Vale to secure some nickel. So this is, I guess, good news because if these companies, good news if you're an investor in lithium and in the EV space, because these companies are now going to be looking for multiple suppliers, which means, if you have an increased demand, not enough supply, you have to increase that supply somehow, which means more money will likely flow to these lithium projects or these companies that have a good lithium asset that are waiting to be turned into a mine and sold. We have to talk about Argentina. There's an area of Argentina, I guess it's sort of like the Athabasca region when it comes to uranium, but it's called the Lithium Triangle, which is in Argentina, and I can show you a map. You'll always see this map here. Apparently, a lot of lithium producers are in that area of Argentina, and the company we're looking at here first.
And Chile, actually, it crosses over into Chile.
It crosses into Chile too. Yeah, there it goes. Right, kind of.
No worries.
Missed that map there. Sorry to all the Chilean viewers here. But yeah, the Lithium Triangle. I almost called it the Argentina Triangle. Good thing I didn't call it that. But this project here, Alpha Lithium, is part of that triangle, and I just wanted to show people this as well because I think a lot of people don't really understand that lithium is like this. It's Galen, correct me if I'm wrong, but it's like a brine salt, right?
Well, there's two forms. You can go hard rock lithium, or you can go brine, and the salars in South America are a great source for these brines.
Right. So this is a good sort of image because I know a lot of people when they talk about lithium, they don't really know how it looks like when you mine it. But that's, I guess, a topic for another show.
It's basically a salt.
Yeah, exactly. Basically salt. Yeah. So this project, Alpha Lithium, it is in Argentina, and they are quite de-risked, which means they're pretty much shovel ready and ready to go. And the big news with this company is actually Uranium One 5 months ago put in an investment of 30 million US dollars, and they also have a right to invest an additional $185 million project, which would do quite a lot to sort of get the mine ready to go. So in terms of de-risking, I think this is the one that seems a bit more ready to, as I said, it's much more near term in terms of production. It just has to line up some more cash and get that mine up and running. And as we said, if there is the supply shortage, then money will probably flow to projects that are more de-risked and ready to produce, like Alpha Lithium. Another company which is also in the Lithium Triangle is Argentina Lithium and Energy. And as Rob mentioned, a bit of a smaller cap here. You can sort of see that triangle that we've talked about. It looks like it goes into Bolivia there as well. So not just Chile and Argentina, but Bolivia as well. But these guys are a bit more early stage, like they're still doing some drilling. They have 4 projects, as you can see here. I'm not even going to try to pronounce the names there, but they have 4 projects, and they're just advancing them. And as we said, very early stage. We're still talking about drilling, and management has experience in Argentina, which I think is very important because whenever I think of Argentina, I think of the place where money goes to die. That's usually what people say, but hey, there is some mining going on there, and it's a big space when it comes to lithium. And finally, let's look at maybe a jurisdiction that we're all sort of used to, or that we know a bit about, and that is Critical Elements with their ROSE project in Quebec. And I find this company fascinating just because I've been following them for quite some time, and I remember years ago we were all talking about that mine or the production facility getting ready to go, because even the government of Quebec, the provincial government, was all for it and really happy that this project was going. The First Nations group were all for it as well. But now we're in 2022, and we still haven't developed that project. So that's the big goal for 2022, is get fully permitted and start the construction at ROSE. As you guys can see, they have the lithium carbonate, that was the other one. And the feasibility study is all done. The environmental impact study is all done. They've done their pilot plants. And as I said, they have good relationships with the First Nations and the provincial government there in Quebec. And now it's all about finding partners and getting the ROSE mine or ROSE project fully permitted and start constructing. So Alpha Lithium, Critical Elements are 2 of the more de-risked lithium companies here, while Argentina Lithium is more of an early stage company.
Very good. That's interesting stuff. I think it's cool to look at that stuff. It's like the Great Salt Lake, only small. And
exactly.
And it's worth a boatload of cash. Chris Perry, your thoughts on the lithium experience?
I like me some lithium. I think if you're going to be invested in resources, then renewables, which lithium sort of gets shoved into the category of, I think is a good place to be. Oil and gas certainly is having a moment, but it might only be a moment. And people, every time you go to the pump and you're paying the prices we're paying right now, the mental math begins as
over
to
$2 here.
How much money am I spending in filling this car up? How much could I get if I sell it? And what do I have to put down to get either a hybrid or an EV? I'm certainly in that category, and people I know have already made the jump. So if we're looking for the future and your investments, that's where you should definitely be looking, rather than the current. Then I want to be in lithium, especially with that hockey stick chart that you showed earlier. So here's the problem. And it was the problem when lithium was the big deal 3 years ago. And it's the problem now. And that is prices that are being paid today aren't necessarily going to benefit companies that are exploring today, right? If you're ready to turn on the tap, if you've already built your plant and you've done all your testing and you know where it is and you know what you got, then great. Raging lithium price is all amazing. But if you look at the 3 charts of the companies that we're talking about today, though there's been definitely some movement since late last year when the prices started shuffling, the movement hasn't necessarily stuck. And I think that's really the math that people are doing is okay, critical elements. It will be great when you get ready to turn the taps on in Quebec. But that's not today, and it's not tomorrow, maybe not for 6 months or a year. Now, the real knock on lithium exploration companies back in the day when lithium was going through some things was that the big players in the world, the big three, have enough capacity that if prices go up and demand goes up and supply doesn't, they can just turn on the taps more. They can create more supply and take all that cash for themselves. So where does that leave the little guys? Well, it pretty much leaves them going up and down. Of the 3 stock charts that we looked at, Argentina Lithium and Energy Corp, it got a bit of a rise in October last year, went up, came down, kept some of that rise, and has been pretty flat since. If you look at critical elements, it's all over the map, but you could pretty much draw a straight line through it as an average. And right now it's not necessarily much further up than it was 6 months ago. And if you're going back to Alpha Lithium, same thing. Bit of an increase around October, November last year, bit of a fall off as we went through this year and starting to move a little bit more. So there's definitely a disconnect between these companies and the lithium price. Will the lithium prices stay up as they are in the future? That is the big question. And I think, Vishal, if you wanted to check out the lithium ETF, LIT.
LIT, yep.
What you find there is that the ETF isn't really hanging, right? Yeah. It's basically gone through the same things where it went up big October, November, and it's trailed off again from 375, almost 400, back to under 300 since. So, if the general sector is kind of up, but not really solidly up, then that tells me that we're still not out of that place where the new players are not yet in a position where they can push through those big guys and say, I'm going to take a piece of that increasing contract market.
I'm just going to ask Galen a question quickly, just because, I know you follow lithium stuff a lot, but to me, it seems like a lot of the people playing the lithium markets are betting on what's the company Tesla is going to buy out.
Yeah, and that's a real stupid play because Tesla is not going to necessarily be the industry leader in the next year. So who gives a crap who they buy? They're mostly just going to make a contract with a Chinese company because they're just suckered. Lithium, in and of itself, is an interesting product. It wasn't really in our general lexicon until about 1985 when they started coming out with lithium-ion batteries, and we discovered the potential of this mineral to be able to be used within power storage solutions. And as we grow closer to the green energy revolution, which requires power storage as part of the system, of the ecosystem, lithium has become an ever more important player. Even a few years ago, lithium, as far as battery demand because lithium is used for a variety of things. It's one of the few edible minerals. It's also used in mental health treatments, but it's also used in lithium grease, industrial uses, lubrication, all sorts of interesting things. Battery use only comes up to about 35% of the total demand. However, as EVs come into play, as power storage units come into play for renewable energy like wind and solar and such, to even the power flow, we're looking at about a 95% demand in the sector for that. Now, this is all considering that lithium is going to remain being the major mineral player in power storage solutions. And that's not necessarily the case, right? We could end up with super mega capacitors that don't use lithium if they can find a way that, they can use them without killing people. There's all sorts of different technology, nickel iron, that's an air battery that they've been playing with that could have some great potential. All of that in the embryonic stages, but still points to a future that doesn't necessarily mean it's lithium all the way or nothing. Yeah. However, according to the McKinsey report, it's a company that usually does market analysis, they dip into the lithium sphere, and they say that in 2021, they expected there to be about 500,000 metric ton demand for lithium in and of itself, the actual lithium product, the LCE or lithium carbonate equivalent. But they predict that by 2030, we'll be looking anywhere between 3 to 4 million metric tons in demand. Now, as Chris mentioned, we've got a lot of big players out there that are already running their production facilities and could just ramp up their rates and cover a lot of that. They won't be able to cover everything. According to McKinsey, they only expect in the year 2030 that with current supply and capabilities, that producers will only be able to cover 2.7 million metric tons of that requirement, and the rest will have to be made up of new exploration or optimizing brownfield projects that they already have going. So there is potential. Lithium will actually continue to, I think, valuate. It'll still climb. It may not be rocketing at that point in time. This is not something that you're going to, wake up tomorrow and be a billionaire because you threw a few dollars into the sector. But you should be able to know that if you pick the right players, and I think, as much as I'd like to really recommend the guys that don't have anything yet, that are more or less going on a promise and possibility, you really kind of have to look at the guys that are ready to go to production within the next 10 years. And the other guys, they may not get caught up in that flow because, as Chris mentioned, and I just reiterated, there's already a lot out there and the potential for creating a lot more to cover the demand as it increases. And this is all, as I said, based on the fact that perhaps lithium will remain being the main player. I don't know what to suggest or recommend. I think either going with the big guy or finding somebody that's, as I said, ready to go to production in the next 10 years. The early stage guys, unless they all of a sudden define a huge deposit, probably not a player.
Critical Elements is CRE on the venture exchange. It's a $337 million market cap. Alpha Lithium, which is ALLI on the venture, is 142 market. And good old Argentina Lithium and Energy is a 32 mil. What are the charts doing on behalf as it relates to these three buggers?
Yep. So as Chris mentioned, lithium had a lot of ups and downs. Recently, I'm just going to start here with the global lithium and battery tech ETF here. We hit highs here in November of 2021, and ever since then, it's just been downhill and quite choppy, to be honest. There was a bit of hope at the beginning of March here with a bottom, but just no momentum higher. And lithium has been, or the lithium ETF here, is drifting lower. And if we take a look at the other charts, for example, ALLI, Alpha Lithium, very similar sort of structure there, where we had this downfall or downtrend. We had a bump up in March, and just trying to find some momentum here, right? The ETF isn't really holding up too well, but ALLI is holding up okay, and I think it could be because it's very near that $1 zone, which is always a very important psychological zone. You can actually see we're finding some support here in the near term at 95 cents. So I think it'll be quite a battle here between 95 cents and $1, just because, again, it is a psychological importance zone. But if we do close below 95, we're probably going to give back we're probably going to give back most of this March 15th to the present day pop. So not looking the best there, but I think when it comes to some of these lithium companies, just as Galen said, I'm just going to repeat what he said, that you want to look for guys that are de-risked and sort of ready to, are shovel ready within the next 10 years or sooner, just because I think this is a long-term play rather than a trade per se. Although, like I said, I know a lot of people in the retail crowd especially always approach lithium as a trade, because they're always looking at it as, hey, Tesla's going to buy these guys out, or Tesla's going to buy this company out. I'm not sure if anyone's going to really be talking about Rivian's going to buy these guys out, or Toyota's going to buy these guys out, or Nissan. But
I think it's just a fetish with Musk.
Maybe, possibly so. Well, we'll have to, see what that's about. But I know, I agree with Galen. I think this is more of a long-term play, and I actually agree with him too that lithium might not be the end-all, be-all. And I know we don't have too much time to talk about that, but there's this whole idea of lithium batteries not doing well in cold climates, which sort of sucks if you're Canadian.
Yep.
Yep. And they do well in a warm climate, so you're okay if you're in Silicon Valley or in California driving your Tesla convertible Roadster. That's all fine, but maybe not something you can do full year.
Not a new Roadster. You'll be waiting years for that.
Okay. Will it blow up on you, or?
No, he just keeps promising he's going to do a new one, but yeah, right, whatever. That's just like the dancing robots.
In terms of critical elements, we've just been ranging since really since the beginning of January of 2021, within $1.20 on the downside here. That's your major support, and then at the top, we've had highs of nearly $2, and we're at a resistance zone here at $1.70. There was a big pop here on March 31st. I did go back to take a look at the news, and I see it is on the 17th. So close to that date, there was a Quebec Critical Metals and Technology Conference presentation, but I don't think that's really what caused that pop. But maybe people liked what they saw there.
Could be a smarmy CEO. You never know.
Maybe it caused a pop there. But as you can see, not much momentum ever since then. When you get a big green candle like that, you should expect to see some momentum taking the stock a bit higher. But we just sort of stalled here at $1.70. So just very choppy charts here on the lithium space in general. Not really fun if you want to be a trader, much more, for a long-term hold. And you can say the exact same thing here with Argentina Lithium, where we had a very nice pop in October of 2021, and then sold off since then. And we've just been ranging this year now between 30 cents to the bottom and 50 cents here to the upside. So 50 cents, another psychological important zone. If you can get a break above 50 cents and a nice close, perhaps that can get a move higher. And actually, to be honest, there's not much resistance after that. Maybe there is some here at 56.5. Once you cross that over, you're looking at this crazy spike. So you can technically still go back up to 92, but you have to clear this 56.5 zone first. So just very choppy markets, not really something I would be looking to trade per se, but if you are bullish on lithium in the long term, then I think there's a few of these companies that you can definitely take a look at and hold for the long term.
And I do believe at one point Galen said that it's one of the few minerals that is edible.
That is correct.
You could actually make lithium brownies, is what you're trying to say.
Yeah.
Would that?
Don't say that too loudly. The mushroom people will be all over it.
Yeah, exactly. And we'll never be able to play this on YouTube. No.
Lubricant.
Yeah.
There's something worth noting on the chart side, and it doesn't really relate too much to lithium. It's the nickel price.
Yeah.
Nickel has gone on a very similar tear, but it's not China-based. It's everywhere-based, right? Now, there's a lot of folks out there that would love to make batteries that don't include any nickel because it leaves the local surrounds somewhat of a Mars-like hellscape. You can go for a quick drive through the backwoods of Ontario to see what I'm talking about. And certainly cobalt's another metal where plenty of people would love to get cobalt out of the mix because dropping kids in holes by ropes in Africa, not the way you really want to be getting your clean, renewable energy sources from. That said, if we just look at lithium space, these three companies are interesting in three different ways. I'm one to say that the Argentinian-based ones aren't my favorite. If there's going to be something that is going to get the Teslas of the world and other auto manufacturers happy, it's going to be the fact that they can get lithium on a train.
Right.
Critical Elements, because it's based out of Quebec and because that is really what they're going for, that is the more interesting deal to me out of the three. They're clearly putting the plant design together right now. They've raised a bunch of money. They're drilling real numbers. It's a real deal. The problem with it is it's already a $300 million company because of those things. So though I think there's going to be some upward mobility on it, and there has been recently, in fact, just in the last week or so, it's a couple of weeks, it's gone up from $1.20 to $1.62. That's no small jump, and whether or not they can hold that, remains to be seen. They've certainly lost it a couple of times in the past. So as a trade, this is interesting. The volume has really dried up since it hit that 170 spot. So there's a lot of wait and see. But this is an interesting chart for me because it's not based on necessarily lithium prices. It's based on proximity to the lithium, to where the Musks of this world want it to be. And the other two deals are interesting. I think LIT is more interesting to me. It's a lot less volatile, but it's only a $30 million company. So there's a lot of room there. If they have a bit of interesting news out of Argentina, then maybe that thing can elevate in a way that's a real meaningful percentage increase, alternately decrease. So if you're a gambler, that's my go-to. If you're looking for realistically a difference maker that can push past the big three and say, yes, we have lithium, there's a train right away instead of a boat right away, I think that's really interesting. And let's be honest, the Quebec government, they love themselves a mine. Oh boy, do they love a mine. They love a mine like Vancouver men like themselves.
So how much you throwing down?
How much throwing down?
You know what? I would put 1,000 down on Critical Elements as a placeholder. If it dropped back down to the 120, 130 range, I'd probably throw in an extra 3 or 4, but I want to see what's going to happen with the price action. It's really the lowest volume trading that there's been on that stock since before the lithium prices went on a run. I'm interested to see whether it can push on from there. If it does, then chase it to the moon. The others, I'd throw a couple of thousand down on LIT, just as I think a good likelihood that that's going to elevate at some point in the next 6 months on news, assuming they do the work. And I don't know, ALLI, it's a $100 million company plus. It's the least interesting of the three, just at first glance for me, because it's in the middle of those two things. It's far enough away that they've got to compete with the big boys. It's big enough market cap wise that increases and decreases are maybe going to be wilder swings. I'm in this space, I think, for a long haul, not a short haul. So I'm not really bothered about the trading possibilities. It's more the investing. So I think coming up from a low market cap is interesting. Coming down from Quebec is interesting. Those would be my 2 of the 3.
All right, so 3K total at the moment, Galen?
I would side with Chris in terms of proximity and location. I'm not a big fan of solar extractions. It leaves a lot of byproduct and devastated landscape, I guess you could say, in its wake. Technology is improving, right, but it is quite a detrimental sort of environmental practice. I prefer the hard rock lithium mining, and Quebec is host to one of the largest deposits of spodumene, which is hard rock lithium. This is where they actually go in and mine it, and rather than letting it evaporate and then collecting the salts. So the company that we're talking about, Critical Elements, is low enough on the totem pole in terms of growth value or growth potential. There is some things I'd like to see happen with the pricing, but I'm willing to throw 1,500 at it. And I'd have to say that even though it might be a good investment thing, I just don't want to throw my money at the solars right now. I'd like to see a different way happen. So 1,500 right now. If Critical Elements can actually come out with some really good news, then perhaps I'll follow that up.
Okay, 1,500 bones, 3,000 bones. V-Shell.
Yep, I'll keep it short and simple. Critical Elements, 2K in Critical Elements, and this is one long-term hold, right? Don't expect the project to get built right away, even though they're saying, hey, 2022 is going to be a big year. But if I recall, I've been following these guys for some time, and that's what they've been promising. But then again, back then, maybe they didn't have, approval from or good relationships with the First Nations people and such. But yep, Canada, Quebec, the jurisdiction we know, especially when it comes to mining shiny stuff like gold and silver. And I think they'll treat lithium the same way. So Quebec is what I like. Argentina, sure, there is the Lithium Triangle there. I believe Lithium X was there as well. That got bought out.
Yep.
So there are projects that do get bought out.
American Lithium was there too.
Yep. So there are projects that do get bought out there as well. But I think Critical Elements is a bit more maybe de-risk in terms of the money that they're getting and even the provincial government support that they have as well. So I'm going to go with Critical Elements and 2K at this price actually. And again, it's going to be a long-term hold for me. It's not one I'm going to trade in and out. But if we do, approach a $1.20, just because it's been such a big support since early 2021, I would watch that zone. And if I do have some extra cash around at that time, I would probably consider adding some at 120 as well, if we get down that road.
That would be the Montreal-based Critical Elements Lithium at CRE on the Venture Exchange. We also had Alpha Lithium, not a lot of love. That's ALLI on the Venture out of Vancouver. Brad Nickel is the CEO. And then we've talked a lot about Argentina Lithium and Energy, LIT on the Venture Exchange. That's the smallest market cap. That's Nick Kakos. They're also out of Vancouver. So $3,000, 1.5, and a 2 around the horn. By the way, for you kids that love the resources, like those that are on this panel today, we got a lot coming up. We're going to do a little uranium here in the not so distant. We got some oil and gas coming up. We got some other resource companies we're going to be talking about. So it's we're entering back into the resource realm here on the Equity.Guru Investor Roundtable over the next wee bit. In the meantime, we cannot guarantee any results from past performance, nor can we guarantee any results from what we've just told you. You have to do your own homework and research. You can't trust us 100%. You can trust us 89.975%.
That's just science.
Not 100%.
With an error rate of 0.05%.
We're going to eat some lithium brownies with Galen and
Wow.
Chris and Michelle. I'm Rob. We'll see you next time on the Equity Guru Investor Roundtable.